Well, that brings us to our big face-off question we're asking up first on centre stage tonight. We're asking, is the deployment of the army a clear sign of failure of the Omar Abdullah administration? On the big debate on centre stage tonight, we're joined by Mr. G.N. Ratanpuri. He's a senior National Conference leader and Rajya Sabha MP. Mr. Nizamuddin Bhatt, PDP MLA from Bandipora. We're also joined by Ajit Doval, former chief of the Intelligence Bureau. Here in our Delhi studios, David Devdas, senior journalist who's been working in Kashmir for many years now, and particularly with the youth of Kashmir, and our editor investigations, Harinder Baveja. Let me start with you, Mr. Ratanpuri. 14 deaths we've seen in the last fortnight, and yet through all of this, while Kashmir is burning, we haven't heard a word yet from Chief Minister Omar Abdullah. Today's deployment of the army, the first time in 20 years, isn't that a clear sign of Omar's failure as an administrator?
On the outset, I may clarify that I am speaking on my behalf. My views may or may not reflect the official opinion of my party or the government. And your question that this is a sign of the failure of the government, no. I concede that police has not come to our expectations and there have been serious lapses. They could have foreseen the situation. It started with small incidents of stone pelting in the downtown area of Srinagar, and it boiled up because of innocent deaths that were caused due to tear gas shells striking some innocent boy. And then it was out of control because people got infuriated because of these innocent deaths.
Who let it get to this point? That's the question I'm asking. The government, clearly, the state government, can't brush aside and say it's all the responsibility of the CRPF or the police. They're the guys who made the mistake. It's clearly lack of maintenance of law and order by the state government.
Primarily, it is the responsibility of the state police, which has a very big and vast paraphernalia. They have the lists of the mischief mongers. They have identified the persons who started this stone pelting, and they have arrested them at many occasions. They should have foreseen.
When Omar Abdullah came to power, and consistently over the last 1 year, he's been saying that one of his top priorities, it was in fact one of his #1 poll promises, was that he will reduce the number of troops in the Kashmir Valley. Today, when the crisis hit the ceiling, you've gone back to the same army.
The level of troops was reduced to some extent, but we expected the situation to improve further, and we were negotiating with the central government, and central government, at least Home Ministry, had conceded that Armed Forces Special Powers Act and Disturbed Area Act, both will be at least amended to make them more
deployment of the army today? You're talking about what's happened over the last 1 year. What about the deployment of the army today? Isn't that a sign of failure?
There was a section of opinion. You know them. You know them. They are very well known. They opposed this idea, and somehow somebody has created the situation where we are back to square one, and where somebody may argue that the situation has not improved to such a level where we can change this Armed Forces Special Powers Act and Disturbed Area Act.
You've made your point. We're also joined now by Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, National Spokesperson and Member of Parliament of the Congress Party. Sir, isn't this deployment of the army for the first time in 20 years to maintain law and order, to try and control crowds in Srinagar city, a clear sign that the state administration has failed?
Let me start by saying that it is very regrettable and sad as to the events we are seeing in Kashmir in the last few weeks. Nobody is denying that, and all of us have to join together to improve things. But let's not forget the larger picture. I do not see this as anything more than a very temporary aberration. It's bad, it's sad, it's wrong, but it's a temporary aberration. After all, Kashmir in the last year, and indeed in the last 4 years, has constantly, progressively improved. Now, something has happened in the last few weeks. I ascribe it primarily to interference from elements both across the border and a few within the border who do not want stability in Kashmir. Now, beyond that, when something like that happens, what do? You have to deploy first the police along with the CRPF, and when there is a continuity about it and a certain pattern emerging, then as a last extreme resort, the army has been deployed. This is a temporary measure. I can tell you without hesitation of contradiction that of all such places in the world where such kind of insurgencies are active, the Indian approach is the most humane, the most inclusive, the most healing touch oriented. But
just
still,
give me a moment. Just give me a moment. You've made your point. I want to get David to respond to that. David has just come from Srinagar. He will give you the ground situation. David, Dr. Singhvi called it a temporary...
Only one point.
Yeah, quickly.
Only one point. And that quick point is that please don't see this as a complete failure of governance as people are saying. Because if that was so, then just 1 month ago and for the preceding 2 years before that, the governance would be superb. Because there's nothing like this happening. So don't treat this aberration as a failure of governance or the elected people completely failed. That's not true.